Customer testimonials, they can make or break your business. But getting great customer testimonials is more than just sending a link and hoping for the best. How can you get those killer testimonials? Those ones that turn heads, that convince customers they should be working with you, the ones that really count. That is what we're talking about today on Idea Collective Live, collecting those testimonials and taking them to the next level. Welcome to Idea Collective Live, the weekly meeting of the small business community. I'm your host, Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. This show is where we all get together, we make authentic connections, we learn from one another, and then afterwards we blow off some steam with the after party networking and we get to know each other a little bit. If you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever you might be, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, especially on YouTube. Subscribing to the YouTube channel is the number one way that you can show us that you're engaged in what we're doing and you want to see future episodes. So subscribing to the YouTube channel, much love from the Idea Coach if you do that. So no matter where you're watching, feel free to share, settle in, and let's get going. Idea Collective Live is sponsored by Bank 59 and, of course, Serendipity Labs and the Idea Collective for small business owners. We're really glad you're here this week. So on the show today, we're going to talk with Katie Corbett, who's an outstanding writer who specializes in collecting testimonials. We're also going to remind you of the exclusive offer for Idea Collective members for the upcoming Young Guns main event, which is like 12 days away? Not that I'm starting to get nervous or anything. Plus, we're going to remind you how you can capture 1 year free inside the Idea Collective if you're a partner with Bank 59. But let's bring on the star of the show. Today, an expert writer specializing in customer case studies, Katie Corbett. Katie, it's great to see you today. Thank you for coming. How is Monday so far?
Oh, Monday's been really good. It's been a nice busy day, which I love my Mondays to be busy. So thanks for having me on the show, Pat.
It's our pleasure. So I have to tell you, we have someone on the show every week, and I have not had a guest that has received better testimonials in advance of their appearance than you. We mentioned that, hey, we're going to have Katie on the show, and I've been hearing nonstop left and right, oh, Katie, she's the best. So someone that teaches people how to do testimonials is getting really good testimonials in advance. Is that by design?
Not intentional, but I'm glad that what I'm doing is working. So yeah. That's great. That's great to hear.
Rave reviews, that's for sure. All right, so we want people to have rave reviews about our companies and our businesses. So let's begin at the beginning. What are some of the statistics? What do people look for when it comes to testimonials? Why are they so important?
Well, I pulled some statistics from a website called Boast, and they did a marketing survey, and they collected data that 92% of buyers read reviews and testimonials before they make a purchase online, and 88% of customers trust testimonials and reviews as much as they trust a recommendation from a friend. So right there, I mean, you can see that testimonials and reviews play a huge part in the decision-making process. And also, a lot of my clients have said that the testimonials pages and the case study pages of their websites are some of the most trafficked pages. And, 69% of B2B businesses are using customer case studies. So they are they're among the top 3 ways that you can close sales and convert prospects. And that data came from the Content Marketing Institute, which also does a lot of surveys and market research on how content is used. So those are some of the stats to get us going here.
So if testimonials are so important, how come they seem like an afterthought? And we really don't talk about them very much.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the people that I've talked with say that gathering testimonials makes them nervous. They don't want to be pushy. They don't want to, that they feel like they might be putting their clients or customers out by asking them to do something. So I think that's kind of the main thing. And also, not being sure what to ask or what to say or how to how to get a review beyond "that's awesome!" exclamation point smiley face. You know, like how to get a really great review. I think it's a little more of a it takes a little more than people think it does, but it's also at the same time a lot simpler.
Okay. Now, I've got more questions, but one has come to mind here. Um, what's the difference between getting a written review that has meaningful words and the fast and easy 5-star Google review? Like the written word is better and more powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, the written review can increase your search engine optimization. So by having written reviews, you'll rank higher on Google. I mean, the 5-star reviews are great too, but when you actually have people saying words about why it was great to work with you, I mean, like I said, you know, people trust those reviews and they
Yeah.
rely on them to make a purchase. So if you want to stand out and you want to convert leads, it's really um, you it's really important to get those nice written reviews.
Now, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Katie Corbett, who's a writer. She specializes in testimonials and case studies, and we've got a lot of great information today, and we're glad that you're here. If you have questions for Katie, drop them in the chat. We'll work them in during the conversation. So we know how important they are now, even though we're not really asking for them as much as we should. So when is the best time to ask for a testimonial in general?
Yeah, the best time is when you're about to wrap up a project with a client, or you know, shortly after you've wrapped up a project, and particularly when that client has expressed like happiness or satisfaction with the work you've done. It can be really easy to just say, "Hey, you know, thank you for that. Thank you for that that good feedback. You know, would you mind writing it in a testimonial or a review?" And it can be a really nonchalant or easy way to collect that information.
So are you just listening for positive feedback, or is it maybe after the big deliverable and they're happy with it? I mean, let's get specific. When would it be the right time?
Both and.
Both and.
Um,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Easy. Check.
Yes. So, you know, when you're in those conversations and people are saying to you, "That was great. Thank you so much." Yeah, that's the time to ask. Um, thank them first, of course. I mean, it's, you know, that's important to acknowledge what they've said and thank them for their kind words. But you know, if they don't happen to say anything, or if they kind of say something like, "Oh, you know, thanks so much," then you know that's the time to ask for um, testimonials. I always ask when I am wrapping things up with a project, just because you know, there might be instances where I've delivered a little more than I thought I was going to, and I want that to be reflected in the testimonial, or you know, just when for me the revision process, you know, how smoothly that gets handled often yields feedback too. So it's
Mhm.
important to ask when you're getting close to the end, or you've finished shortly after.
Timing,
Yeah.
important. How we ask, also important. So what are some questions to ask to make sure you get a quality testimonial?
Yeah. So um, if you haven't gotten any direct feedback about a specific thing that was awesome throughout the life of the project, um, my favorite questions to ask. So I send an email or a LinkedIn request, um, and say something like, you know, "Hi, you know, first name, you know, it was really great to work on this project with you. I really enjoyed it. I would really appreciate it if you left a recommendation or review or testimonial about your experience working with me. I would especially appreciate it if you asked or if you answered these questions." And then
Ah,
the questions I always ask are, what was your favorite part about our work together? Um, why would you recommend me to other, you know, business owners? In my case, depending on, you know, who your target market is, it could be somebody else. Um, what did I do particularly well during our time together? Those are the big three, and those can usually yield great testimonials. Another question that I love is, tell me about a time that our work together made a real difference. And that's if you want more of a story, if you want them to tell a story. So.
And that's different than the automated form. Here's my Google review. Go give me a rating. That's a much different type of engagement.
It is. And I believe you can edit the Google review form to include those questions. And that would be for another expert to talk about. But yeah, editing that stuff as much as you can, and even having your automated forms work for you in that regard by asking those questions too, that will be really great, because your customer is in the middle of their day. They might be doing something else. They might have just finished working on something else. They might need a memory jog. So even it can be really helpful to have, if they've written a testimonial for you in the past, or if they had said something in a conversation in the past, it can be helpful to remind them of that. And those questions also help to remind them of the specific experience that they've had specific to you, because then they won't have to try and go back through their memory and figure it all out and piece it all together themselves.
One question that I've used in the past, I'd love to get your feedback on it, is saying to the prospect or your customer at this point, if someone was thinking about working with me, but they weren't quite sure, what would you say to them?
That's a great, yeah.
Is that okay? Is that not, it's not leading too much?
No. In some ways you want to lead a little bit. I mean, because we're assuming that this customer loves you and appreciates what you did. And, they do have final say over what they write in that testimonial. So the more you can direct them, the better, because you'll get solid feedback beyond the generic, "It was awesome. Thank you so much."
It was awesome. 4 stars.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I only got 4 stars. Oh no, what did I do? All right. So we get some testimonials. How do we use them? How can we use testimonials in our marketing to try and convert them into more clients?
Yeah. There are tons of ways to use testimonials. You can have a testimonials page on your website. You can put them in, I saw somebody who put testimonials in their email signature. You can, depending on what type of product, if you do a product that you're shipping out to people, you can include testimonials in that shipment. If your customer is comfortable with being featured a little bit, you can put the testimonial on your Facebook page or your Twitter page or your LinkedIn page and have a picture of the customer and, share, "Hey, this person had a really great experience working with me. Here's what they said." And I like that, especially because, sometimes, as business owners, we are doing great things and we don't want to brag, but we want the world to know all the great things we're doing. And so your customers will be telling those stories for you. So really the sky's the limit on how you can use testimonials, and it really depends on you and your business.
So we're talking with Katie Corbett. We're talking about how to level up your testimonial process, increase your marketing, maybe get some new clients. And we have some time available for questions. Should you have one, drop it into the chat. We'll work it into the conversation. Coming up in the show, we're going to talk about how we can get you into the Idea Collective for free for an entire year, thanks to our friends at Bank 59. And we're about 12 days away from the Young Guns main event. We've got a discounted ticket offer. We'll give you details on that in just a few minutes. So, Katie, we get testimonials. They're great. We've got some ideas on how to get good ones, where to use them in our marketing. Now let's take it to the next level. What's the difference between a testimonial and a case study?
Yeah, so a customer case study is a much longer piece. I mean, a testimonial really will only be about 4 sentences. Case study, you can cover the challenge that your customer was facing. You can talk about your solution in greater depth. You can talk about why they chose to work with you. And you can talk about, of course, their results. And you can include quotes to demonstrate the results. And you can also include data and numbers to demonstrate their results too. So, with a testimonial, you might be able to cover 1, maybe 2 of those things. With a case study, you can cover all 4. And I mean, case studies, especially if you have a higher ticket item, or if you are, looking to convert, if you want somebody to spend a lot of money on a software package, especially, or on a coaching package that might cost a little more than they would normally spend. A case study is great because it can take them from where they are to where they could be if they work with you.
And what's the process on that? Am I writing the case study, showing the results and getting buy-off from the client? Yes, you can use this. Are you co-writing it? Are they writing it and you're dressing it up? Not you personally, but if we were to try and put together a case study, who is it on to create that content?
That depends on you and your expertise. I mean, I come in as a writer, as an outside writer, which can be really helpful because, I interview you, learn all about your business, learn all about your goals, learn about how you plan to use the case study, and I provide some strategy on that if that's what you want.
Sure.
Also, I interview your customer, and sometimes, like a customer might give me a little more feedback than they might than they might say to somebody who is directly affiliated with the company. And I always communicate that back to my clients because I want them to be able to improve. But it adds a layer of, transparency a little bit, because they feel like they can talk a little more freely about their experience. And then I write it all up and I send it to my clients for their feedback. And once I've incorporated that, I send it to the customer for their feedback. And it's really important to include the customer in this process because I don't know if you've ever had the experience where somebody interviewed you for something and then they wrote something about you and then it was published and then you're like, wait, that wasn't, I wish I could have been able to clarify X, Y, and Z. So I, as a writer, I provide that for the customers of my clients. And then I also contract with graphic designers too. So if, in some cases my client just wants the text, they want to just take it and use it in, social media or in newsletters. But then in other cases, they want a really polished case study that they can put on their website or that they can print out and take to conventions or in-person stuff whenever that starts happening again. And so I have a pool of graphic designers that I can work with and kind of facilitate the review process to make sure that everything's correct throughout the life of the project.
So let me make sure I understand. So if I wanted to say there are a couple of members of the Idea Collective that I think would have a successful case study story, I would call you and then you and your designers would take it from there?
Yeah, pretty much. Aside from the 1 hour interview that I would have with you to learn more about the Idea Collective in general and, your goals, then it would just be the time it would take to read it over and revise, maybe at the most a 4-page document. Case studies are typically anywhere between 300 and then they can go all the way up to 2,000 words. So it really just depends on the story.
Well, we can recap that hour-long conversation by saying the Idea Collective is a magical land of small business. That's it. That's all you need to know. So we have some questions coming in, and we have an example of a case study that you've done, but we're going to hold on to that for just a second. Sheila is joining us on LinkedIn. Sheila, thanks for coming. So she's saying, Katie, can you repeat the 4 things of a case study again? She was writing down, but only got 3 of them. Do you mind repeating all 4 if you remember them?
Yeah, I think she's talking about the case study. The case study can, in a case study, you can talk about why the customer, the challenge the customer was facing, why they chose your specific solution, and why they chose to work with you, what it was like to work with you, and then the results that they got.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good. And Sheila, if you didn't get them, let us know and we'll connect with you via email and get that to you. Susie's got a question for you. She's joining us on YouTube. Thank you, Susie. Would you say that case studies are better with industries that have tangible results like financial, law, banking, etc.?
Not necessarily. I recently worked on a case study for a web designer. And the results that we covered in that project, it was about the emotional results that her customer got because she could finally work with someone who understood her and understood her vision for her business and created the website. So results can be anything from, this saved me so much time to, I made $10,000 in 2 months because of this. So the type of product, for product-based and service-based businesses, case studies are great. And in some ways, for service-based businesses, I would even argue case studies are more important because it's not like there's a tangible widget. Hey, I bought this printer. Here's my printer.
Yeah.
If it's a service-based business, hey, I got 6 months of coaching. The case study can explain a lot more about the results of that less tangible service.
Yeah, and going back to the Idea Collective example, I think that's exactly what you're talking about. I can't show that I've grown someone's business 19.1% because they're a member of my collaboration community.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can describe tangible benefits they've received from being a member of the community, that would be really powerful. I've put up on screen here the case study that you did for our friend Sue Gresham.
Yes.
And so this is, as you'll see here, and we'll scroll through it. We don't have to go through the whole thing. But when you're on this screen, there's a big headline, and it looks a lot like a newspaper story. Is that by design?
Yeah. Case studies actually can be used as articles in magazines if you want to. And it is laid out that way just to, grab attention. It's kind of what people are familiar with. And that's typically how a case study looks.
And seeing some of these bolded in red deliverables, double the LinkedIn connections and a dream job in months. I mean, that's really sharp because folks are going to skim this. Is that how you're writing it? Like they're just going to skim it?
Yeah, they can. I mean, a really serious customer who's really trying to decide if this is what's right for them, they will sit and read the whole thing. But if someone is just clicking through, I mean, they can very easily see like, oh, wow, they got this result and that result and that result just through skimming it.
Yeah, it really looks terrific. And knowing how you can take our customers' experience and put it into, as Michael Rampola says into the chat, a tangible marketing material, something we can use both in print and online.
Yes.
That's really valuable stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got some more questions that are coming in. And if you have one, we still have time with Katie Corbett. We're talking about how to power up your testimonials so you can drive sales and really embrace people with all of the benefits that you're offering your clients. Back to, this is one from Roger. Back to the lessons on SEO. What are people searching for? What words do you want to be known for? So is there a strategy, Katie, around writing testimonials about what you want to be known for? It's not necessarily the results of the client, but you say, listen, I'm in the community business, so let's write a case study about success I had in developing a community. Is that a thing?
I think so. I think, it comes through when I sit down and talk to the client and ask them, like, for example, this web developer I was talking about, she wanted people to know that she really understands and intuits what they do, and how to showcase that in their services. And same thing I would say, when I talked with Sue, like, she really advises people on how to represent themselves so that they can stand out. And she definitely wanted that to be a component of her case study when it was put together.
So when it comes down to using testimonials in a powerful way, is there anything we haven't covered or another strategy or idea that you'd like to share?
I think the big thing is, when, strategy is really great, but when it comes down to it, it's a mindset. So if you are getting ready to ask somebody for a testimonial, or you're asking them to leave a review, or if you're even at the point where you're ready to ask them if they want to be featured in a case study, instead of coming at it from the more common, oh, I'm asking them for something, try and really think about, like, this person loves you. I mean, how many times have you seen a great movie or eaten a really good food or tried a new dance class or listened to a great type of music, and then you just wanted to like go and shout about it to your friends and tell everybody, hey, this is so cool. Like, that is how your customers should feel about you. And if they do, they will be itching to talk about it. And just the other day, I was using a product and I was really excited about it. And I wrote to the company and said, hey, this is great. Can I leave a review? And they just never got back to me on that. And that was a missed opportunity on their point. I mean, because sometimes your customers will tell you like, hey, can I leave you a testimonial? Or hey, can I leave you a review? But you're not always going to capture those things from every customer, even if they love you. So just when you're going into these conversations, or when you're sending them the email or the recommendation request or the review request, keep in mind that they love you and they want to talk about you. And all of these strategy tips and questions and things are great, but unless you keep that in your mindset, like, that's what's going to fuel you to ask for those stories that will show you how you can talk about your business to other people.
And that goes back to where we began, that I feel a little hesitant to ask people for a review. So are you saying that anyone that would give us a good review, we should ask for one because you never know when you might get a great one? Or is
Absolutely.
it you? So just make it part of your process.
Yep. I ask all of my clients. I ask all my clients for a recommendation or a review. And that's just a part of what I do. So when the final invoice is paid and everything's all sent out and good to go, then I send them a request for a review. And if they get back to me, great. If they don't get back to me, well, at least I asked.
And is there a successful ratio between reviews versus case studies? I mean, how frequently would we be putting out a case study? Is it only if we have a higher ticket item, or is it something we should put out once a month? I mean, how frequently should we get case studies versus reviews?
For me, request reviews always. When it comes to deciding whether you're going to make a case study, look at your customer base. And if you have a customer who's experienced a really unique or awesome result, that is the time to have a case study. Or if you've recently launched a course or some sort of product and you want to get a more in-depth content about the experience, that's also the time to do a case study. Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to that customer though. Like, if you have a customer who just really, really, really loves what you do, that could be the time to consider having them featured in a case study.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I am looking at my customers right now and they look fabulous. They're having a great hair day. I can really, they look good. That color's good on you. It really is. Okay. So let's do a couple more quick questions before we get out of here. Dan Marks wants to know, in today's fast-paced world, are people more prone to give a written review versus a case study simply because it's faster? Have you ever had that as a pushback?
No, a lot of times people don't always like to write. So I have sometimes had it happen where, people will say, oh, good, you mean you're going to interview me and you're going to write it all up and I just have to look at it and make sure it looks okay. I mean, because for the client or for the customer, they are going to only spend about, 45 minutes to an hour in an interview with me. And then, they might spend 5-10 minutes reading it over and just making sure it looks good. So in terms of time, like, yes, for some people writing a review might be faster, but for other people it might not. And they might really appreciate just being able to tell their whole story and have somebody else do the legwork of putting it into words.
Yeah. And you bring up a point, at least it makes me think of something, that if they're an ideal client that maybe you'll do business again with in the future, by validating their experience, that draws them even closer to you. It makes them feel like they're on the inside, that they're special and they're a big deal, that they'd like to be featured on your website. So I could see that being a retention and reoccurring business strategy as well. To that end, Alan wants to know, how often do you ask a client for a review? Just once or maybe multiple times over the course of your engagement?
I think that would depend on your level of work with them. So, you'll want to ask them for the first time to get their first impressions of what it was like to work with you. And then as you move down into a longer term working relationship, especially when they start to notice a lot more results, maybe a lot higher of a return on investment, it's not a bad idea to ask them again, because it's changed. Like the scope of your work with them has changed a little bit throughout the life of the project. So just keep an eye on that relationship, and particularly if you've worked on a project that was a little bit bigger, or if you've started doing different things for them, you could even say like, hey, I'd like to ask you for a review of your experience of this particular project, or system or service, or whatever it is that you have done for them.
So we've got an interesting point that Michael brings up in the chat. He says that they've discovered that it helps if they can identify at the start of a project that they might have a case study client on their hands. It changes what you pay attention to and how. So if you've got a client that you think might be a great case study when you're done, does that trip any triggers for you along the way if you think you've got a case study client that you're working with in real time?
Yeah, I think it can kind of be a nudge to you to really perform at your best for that client. You can also ask them ahead of time, like, hey, I think this would be a really great project to feature in a case study. Would you be open to that? And then they kind of know that that's a potential option. And case studies are, once again, it's promotion for both you and them, because the case study features them and it talks about how you helped them. So it's basically you're saying like, hey, I'm going to create a free marketing piece that you can use about your experience working with me, that will promote you and make you look successful and make you look really positive too.
Well, this has been great. We got one more thing I want to follow up on. In the chat, Michelle says, I love how Katie can help you find the person who is perfect for a case study. So I didn't know you did that. What does that mean? Are you helping us identify that ideal client and suggesting who we should call?
I can, yeah. I basically ask a series of questions like, when you look back on your customers, is there a customer who has had a really unique result? Or, when this customer has recommended you to others, what kinds of things did they say? Just to kind of jog your memory of all the customers you've had. Or like, do you have a customer who's constantly like sending you referrals and, telling people about the amazing results that they got from working with you? And another thing that's really important about case studies is it's important that the results are a little different. So going back to the web designer, so I did a case study for her where the result was the website made this business owner $10,000. And then the second case study talked all about, for a different business, it talked all about the emotional return on investment that business owner got. So it's important that when you're putting together case studies that the results look different, so that you're telling a different story instead of just telling the same story a couple different times.
That's great. So if you want to get in touch with Katie, we've put on the LinkedIn connection on the screen if you want to connect with her on LinkedIn. And if we want to find out more, is that how we should start the relationship, Katie? Because this is terrific information today.
Yeah, that's the best place. Every week I post tips and techniques so you can learn a little more about case studies and testimonials. And I love connecting with people on LinkedIn, and I'll probably reach out and set up a one-on-one at that point to talk with you, and just so we can get to know each other. Usually people who want a case study, they usually know. So I'm not pushy, I'm not salesy. I just want to get to know you and learn how we can support each other as fellow business owners.
Well, if you were pushy and salesy, I wouldn't give you a good review. So you got to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
See, I was listening. I was paying attention today. I'm not just a pretty face here, Katie. I was really working hard. Katie Corbett, writer and specializing customer case studies and testimonials. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for the great questions. It was really great to connect with Katie and learn about how we are almost all of us, me for sure, and maybe you too, massively underutilizing testimonials and case studies and their power. So thank you, Katie, for that information. Got a few announcements before we kick over to the after party. So if you're unsure about what the after party is, let's share what that is here real quick. So we do our show here on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on YouTube. We're all over the place. But then after the show, we hop over to a Zoom room and we just kind of check in with each other. And if there's someone that's new to the group, they get to introduce themselves to everybody. And we just check in and see how we're doing on Monday. It turns out to be the beginning of the week. How was your Monday? And then inside the Idea Collective, for what it's worth, on Friday, we do the Friday finish line where we celebrate our successes for the week and talk about the weekend. Kind of bookends the week really, really nicely. So if you're watching the show and you're not down with the Idea Collective group yet, come to the after party, get to know us a little bit, make some friends, make some new connections. That starts as soon as this show is over. It's on Zoom, and that link is right there on the screen. Okay, announcement time. We're off and running with Bank 59. Bank 59, they make lives better and they want to make your small business better by offering you 12 months in the Idea Collective at no charge. What? If you're a Bank 59 member, you're already in. Just go to bank59.com/Idea Collective. Let them know that you want to become a part of the membership. They'll give you a secret magical code and boom, you're in the Idea Collective. If you're not banking with Bank 59, great technology, great people. If you open an account with them and let them know that you did it, boom, you're inside the Idea Collective. So they're easy to work with. It's such a great opportunity. And the Idea Collective is really what it sounds like. We all get together, we're co-working and collaborating. It's a fun place. Thank you to Bank 59 for their partnership. And we hope through their partnership, we can give you an opportunity to experience the Idea Collective. And then you can write us a killer case study and review, right? Okay. Here's the other thing. Young Guns main event. So the Young Guns is a partnership that I've been very fortunate to be a collaborator on. The Young Guns does YGTV on YouTube, weekly shows where we interview important people and big important content. And the Antidote Media Group makes it looks great. And that's out on youtube.com/Young Guns TV. But we also do events, and the main event is coming up on February 25th, and we just got done doing something really, really exciting. So we're going to have Martin Lindstrom, international branding expert, as the keynote, right? We're going to have Shay Rowbottom, the #1 LinkedIn influencer ranked by Forbes. We're going to have Jay English, the cross-cultural coach. Remind me to come back to you on that. And we had a fourth slot, and the fourth slot, we did a call for entries, who should get the fourth slot. And then we selected 3 finalists. We put them up on LinkedIn and we let the community vote. We put the vote up for 4 days, Monday at noon to Friday at noon. We had over 2,000 votes for this final slot. I'm excited to share our winner is someone that you might know, William Deck. He's local to Milwaukee, and he won the popular vote. So William is joining Jay and Shay and Martin. He's going to be our first keynote speaker at the summit, the main event. The Power of the Subconscious Mind is going to be his talk. It's going to be great. So tickets are on sale right now at this link, and that link offers you a $59 ticket and a copy of Martin's book, The Ministry of Common Sense. So a discounted ticket and a copy of Martin's book for this event. It's a 100% virtual event. Watch it at home in your PJs, 8:30 until 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 25th. Now, the thing I'm coming back to. So I'm doing the technical stuff for the show. So here at Idea Coach Master Control, I'm going to run the show, push the buttons, do the thing. That means some of the presentations are being sent to me in advance. I'm telling you, now this is going to sound like I'm selling you something. I'm not selling you something. Look into my eyes here when I tell you this, okay? I may or may not have had the chance to see Jay English's keynote speech. And I'm telling you, it's the best keynote I have ever heard. Ever heard. That's all I'm going to say. Jay English is the bomb. And if you don't know Jay English, you better ask somebody because he is my man and he is so talented. And I'm telling you, his keynote is the best I have ever heard. Make it to this event. It's really going to be great. Support those folks. And congratulations, William. And thank you to everyone that voted as well. Okay, the Idea Collective after party. It's time to do the thing. Click the link that's going to come up on the screen. We're going to put it in the chat. Head over there and meet some new people. One last thing, in 20 minutes at 4 o'clock, we're going to be live inside the Idea Collective doing our new member orientation as well. So we take our membership in the Idea Collective pretty seriously. So we're going to take some time this afternoon to meet and greet our new members and make sure they know what's going on. So if you're an ICL member, you'd want to be a part of that. That link is inside the community as well. Big shout out to Jennifer Buchholz. She's producing the call behind the scenes. She's the ultimate connector in my business BFF. And of course, Katie Corbett. Wasn't she awesome? A writer specializing in customer case studies. This was a good one. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it. Make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel before you bounce. We'll see you in the after party. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Thanks for